Hey, no time to waste. Y'all know how I do. Hop right into it.
The arrest of Judge Hannah Dugan is not merely a news headline, it is a stark warning of a systemic rot within our judiciary. A rot that threatens the rule of law, the constitutional order, and the very cohesion of this nation. If the allegations are true, and the FBI's affidavit and witness accounts suggest they are, Judge Dugan's actions represent a brazen abuse of judicial authority, a betrayal of public trust, and a deliberate subversion of federal law. When a judge entrusted with upholding justice actively aids a lawbreaker, particularly an illegal immigrant facing criminal charges, we are not dealing with an isolated misjudgment. We are confronting an ideological crusade that seeks to dismantle the legal framework of this country under the guise of compassion. This is not an act of mercy. It is an act of defiance against the principles that sustain a free society. Let's begin with the...
Well, here's my thing, man. This is what I don't understand, right? So the judge basically kind of just let him go out the back door. Then ICE had to pursue on a chase. That's the story, right? However, though, ICE showed up at their courtroom and demanded that they take this guy, right? So, and demanded that they take him to deport him with no due process. This judge understands that people are getting deported with no due process, so tries to which it's crazy how both sides are painting this, right? But which side of history are we truly going to be on, right? Which side of history are we truly going to be on is the question. Are we going to be on the side of history where we're deporting people with no due process for no reason, showing that we have no rules, no regulation. We don't go through any process in our country. We just do what we want to do. The executive branch can do whatever they want to do. Or do we go through an area where we kind of allow people who are convicted of crimes, and technically just being here illegally is a crime. So those people who are convicted of that, they have families, things like that here. We deport these people and where we allow these people to be here with no punishment. This is like a weird area to be in history, right? Because we are a nation of immigrants, it makes us hypocrites to say people can't be here. But at the same time, you need a nation of laws and you need rules and processes. And had we have not had such a horrible immigration system in the first place, it wouldn't have led to this. So what is the right side of history right now to be on? Like, the news has it all spun in different directions. I definitely think Thomas Sowell is a clown for being on one side of it completely. I do. Like, because it's just too much it's too much to say, like, I'm one-sided on any of these topics. Like the knuckle tattoos on the guy. Like, that was Photoshopped completely, man. We all know that was Photoshopped, but, you know, but who's to say that there won't be something in the record that comes up that proves he wasn't part of it? He was part of MS-13 later. Who's to say that won't pop up? You know, it's just a lot going on right now, man.
Facts, because as I've emphasized in basic economics, reality must be confronted head-on, not obscured by wishful thinking. On April 18th, 2025, in Milwaukee County Circuit Court, Judge Dugan allegedly directed Eduardo Flores Ruiz, an undocumented immigrant from Mexico in court on a battery charge, to leave through a jury door, thereby evading ICE agents waiting in the hallway. The FBI's affidavit details how she intentionally misdirected federal officers, allowing Flores Ruiz and his lawyer to escape apprehension. This led to her arrest on April 25th, 2025, on charges of obstruction and concealing an individual to avoid arrest, carrying a potential 6-year prison sentence if convicted on both counts. Judge Dugan, released on her own recognizance pending a hearing on May 15th, 2025, claims through her lawyer that she regrets the arrest and disputes its necessity for public safety. But the evidence, corroborated by court staff and federal agents, paints a damning picture of deliberate interference with immigration enforcement. This case bears striking similarities to that of Massachusetts Judge Shelley M. Richmond Joseph, charged in 2019 for allegedly helping Jose Medina Perez, an illegal immigrant with drug convictions and 2 prior deportations, evade ICE by allowing him to exit through a rear door of her Newton District Court. Both cases involve judges accused of obstructing federal law enforcement. Both involve undocumented immigrants with criminal records, and both reflect a troubling pattern of judicial activism. While the charges against Judge Joseph were dropped in 2022 in favor of a disciplinary review with formal misconduct charges filed in January 2025, the parallels underscore that Judge Dugan's actions are not a one-off event, but part of a dangerous trend. In the vision of the anointed, I argue that elites, convinced of their moral superiority, often seek to impose their vision on society, disregarding laws that constrain their ambitions. Judges Dugan and Joseph exemplify this, using their courtrooms as platforms to advance ideological agendas rather than as bastions of impartial justice. Let's place this in the context of constitutional governance. The United States Constitution is a meticulously designed framework to balance power and preserve liberty. The founders, acutely aware in Federalist Number 51, warned of the dangers of concentrated power. James Madison wrote, "If men were angels, no government would be necessary." Legislative, executive, judicial, was established to prevent any branch from usurping another's authority. Immigration policy, including enforcement, is explicitly a federal prerogative.
And that's the complicated part, Tom. Man, like, Tom, I get what you're saying, man, but that's the complicated part. What you just said. Carrying out these laws is where it gets complicated because we don't have a good immigration system. We don't have a process, a simplified process where people can come in the country and go through a legal means and get it done within a reasonable amount of time. We don't have a simple process, and I'm going to give you a prime example of a complicated process. Right, Biden allowed the people that came into Springfield, Ohio. He allowed the Haitian immigrants that came into Springfield, Ohio. Gave them a pathway to citizenship. They actually helped Springfield, Ohio. People don't know this, but if you research it, you'll figure this out. Them coming into Springfield, Ohio, they started working in the businesses that most of the whites that were in that area didn't want to work in, and they started stimulating the economy in that area, and in some ways got Springfield back up rolling. They even started businesses out there and everything. So like the Haitians were making things better for that place, right? Now that Trump's in office, Trump has rolled back on that, right? So now there's a process to where they could be considered here illegally. But they've already kind of started their lives here almost in a way. So now they have to what? Stop what they're doing, restart everything, or go into hiding. And this is a consistent pattern on how our immigration system works here. And it's like, okay, you being a judge, you being somebody in law enforcement, anything like that, knowing how all these processes work, you have to follow the law, but do you think it's right to follow the law when somebody did it the right way? It's just a technicality that's causing them to be on an infraction. Really good example. Another thing I figured out, a lot of it's border crossings, but it's not really mostly border crossings that's the problem. It's student visas that's a problem as well. People not being able to pass certain classes, getting the grades they need to get their student visa up, right? Getting married, and wanting to stay with their significant other or be around their significant other. But the process is so complicated. There's so many doors and avenues for them to want to get in, and hikes and jumps and the cost and things like that. I mean, it's just a broken immigration system altogether, and we need to discuss the brokenness of the immigration system. And that's what's causing, I think, these judges to react the way they're reacting. I don't think they're doing it out of malice or just completely disregard for the law. I think they do care about the law, but I think there's also a morality thing that's happening here with some of these people. He was charged with battery, but that's not what I heard. I heard that he was in the process of going through a legal case with battery. Either which way, I mean, that's kind of far. But I think I just understood that the judge felt like the executive branch is just overstepping a lot of boundaries. So you can't just overstep boundaries, but you're also overstepping boundaries if they send ICE to do the job, man. This is a complicated topic. It's, man, like I know Obama deported millions of people, but he did it through due process. He did it through the he did it with the recommendation of the judges, and the legislative branch. They came together, and this is what they came up with when it came to deporting people. But he also gave people the pathway to be able to come out of the dark. He gave them, you pay a fine, you come out of the dark, and then you register to become a citizen. He didn't just deport a bunch of people. Trump's not doing any of that. It's like he's just like, everybody just got to get out. I don't know. It's a process, man. It's definitely something complicated. I'm going to listen a little more, and then I think I'm going to be done with it because I get where he's going with this. But let's see. Let's keep going.
Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution grants Congress the power to establish a uniform rule of naturalization, and the executive branch, through agencies like ICE, executes those laws. The judiciary's role is to interpret the law, not to obstruct its enforcement. By allegedly shielding Flores Ruiz, Judge Dugan stepped beyond her constitutional bounds, assuming the role of an executive officer deciding which laws apply. This is not the...
But that's... okay, but I understand what Sowell is saying, and that's the crazy part, right? I love this man. He's so intelligent. I like listening to him talk. But the part that's frustrating, right? You just said that Congress comes up with the idea for naturalization, right? They come up with the laws, the rules, the regulations for how it's going to go with immigration. That part is broken. That part right there is the broken part. That part right there is not fully. There are, for example, now you guys know about Mama Bear. When Mama Bear comes through the country, well, I shouldn't use her as I can. Okay, when Mama Bear comes to the country, she comes in and we see each other, right? You have 6 months as a Canadian to be within the country. But the confusing part about it is she'll stay a month, right? Leave out a month, come back a month because she has a job that works from home. Or she'll wait 3 months or 4 months. And sometimes she'll get flagged, sometimes she won't. And literally, the officers have given her answers that say things like this. Well, you can't come in that much. And then she'll be like, well, what do I do? You know what I mean? What do you want me to do? We don't know. We can't give you an answer. That's what they say. So like if there's nothing clear on the legislative side, and the executive branch is just trying to carry out something, and the judicial branch is thinking like, wait, the way we interpret this, you cannot carry it out this way. I really think that's really what happened there. The judge was like, you cannot carry it out this way. You deported 200 immigrants without any judicial review, without any understanding of what's going on in this scenario. You just deported these people, and we want you to stop doing that. You don't have that authority to just do that. So I wonder if Sowell's going to talk about that part, like just the deportation part. You can't just do that according to the law. Like, if she can't let him go out the back door, Trump can't deport 200 people without a judge's authority.
The conduct of a neutral arbiter. It is the behavior of a political operative in robes undermining the very system she swore to uphold. The implications of a courtroom being used to shelter lawbreakers are profound. First, consider legal consequences. The rule of law depends on its consistent application. When a judge flouts the law, it creates a two-tiered system. One for elites who can bend rules with impunity, and another for ordinary citizens who face penalties for minor infractions. In Intellectuals in Society, I discussed how such double standards breed cynicism and erode public trust. The average American, whether a factory worker, a teacher, or a small business owner, must comply with laws, pay taxes, and face consequences for violations. Yet, when a judge aids a lawbreaker, it signals that the law is optional for those with power. The public reaction to Dugan's arrests, protests in Milwaukee, and condemnation from Democratic leaders like Rep. Mark McCain highlights this divide. While some rally to her defense, others, like Attorney General Pam Bondi, rightly assert that no one is above the law. The case of Judge Joseph, where federal charges were dropped, only reinforces the perception that elites escape accountability, further undermining faith in our institution.
Well, so do you feel the same way about Trump? Trump is escaping accountability on many ends for a lot of things that he's doing, So do you hold this same standard towards Trump? You have not came out and condemned him for putting a tax on the American citizens. He is allowed to do that, but that's not what he made a promise to do. The many promises that he made, he's not getting done. He's not finishing up the war in Iraq. He's not finishing up the war in Ukraine. That did not happen. He lied about that. Grocery prices did not come down. They're about to go up according to the tariffs that he put on us. And he's made us enemies to the rest of the world. Are you holding him accountable to the same standards? Don't you have to go through each branch before you start making all these executive orders and these decisions to figure out if whether or not this is something that we should go through? A president's executive order power really should only be enforced. No, well, it can be enforced whenever, but at the same time, it needs to go through due process. And he's skipping all the due process to do whatever he wants to do. You're holding this judge accountable, but not holding the Trump administration entirely accountable. That's just weird. Even the fact that he talked to Bezos and told Bezos he can't do that. That's unconstitutional. That's an attack on democracy, attack on the government or whatever, on their administration. When Bezos is just trying to tell us, like, look, the prices are going to go up like this. Do you hold these same standards when it comes to that? Now, it's jumping around the point of immigration. So I'm going to go back to the immigration. Do you hold him to the same standard when it comes to the fact that you just sent 200 migrants overseas with no due process, just you saying this is what we think happened? Do you hold him to that same standard on that? Like, I don't know, man. It's just weird. Like, when I hear the right talk or the left sometimes, mostly the right now, though, it's like where you criticize anybody that does anything that seems left-leaning. But you don't want to criticize, like, the right and what they're doing, like, right now. It's just, I don't know. I'm everywhere with this right now. I'm going to list a little bit more, and then I think that's it.
Economically, the consequences are dire. Illegal immigration, particularly when unchecked, imposes significant costs on working-class communities.
That's not true at all. Oh, my God. Illegal immigration. He said working class communities. Because they're here illegally, there's a lot of jobs that, the better jobs, the ones that we want, they can't really interfere with. The jobs that we don't want are the jobs that they jump in and do. And because they do that, that stimulates the economy. You know, I can't remember what year it was, but I know Colorado did a deportation practice on their illegal immigrants one year, right? And literally, it almost wrecked the economy there. Let me finish.
In basic economics, I emphasize that resources are scarce and every choice has a trade-off. Illegal immigrants, especially those with criminal records like Flores Ruiz, compete for jobs, housing, and public services. Low-skilled workers, often minorities, face wage suppression and job displacement. Schools are overcrowded, hospitals are strained, and wealth.
And they have, this is the lie that they have them convinced on the right. They have them convinced that immigrants are taking everything, and not that it's the billionaires not raising your salaries, not increasing anything for you, buying up these housing properties in big areas and creating these mega houses, mega mansions, buying up these property areas and putting a factory in where they don't hire Americans, they hire illegals because it's better, or just taking the companies down to other places just because they can and making more money in other places. They never want to blame them. They only want to blame immigrants. This is weird, man. But anyways, I'm out, y'all. They only want to blame illegals. Now, Thomas Sowell has a point on the other end when it comes to competition, but then is there really that much competition? If we had more... We just need more houses to be built, more lumber from Canada. Anyways, I'm done. All right, I'm out, y'all.